The first thing Ambassador Vrelix noticed about the human delegation was their attire. While the representatives of 17 galactic species wore ceremonial combat gear, as was proper for a summit of this magnitude, the humans had arrived in what they called business suits. Simple fabric draped over their bodies in muted colors, lacking any visible weapons or defensive capabilities. "Are they mad?" hissed Calathrax, the Meridian envoy, 6 eyes blinking rapidly in alarm. "To come before the galactic conclave so unprotected?" Vrelix's tendrils shivered. Perhaps they do not understand the protocols. But they did. That was the terrifying part. The humans' lead negotiator, a female called Ilara Corbin, stepped forward with a thin leather case, not a weapon case, just a simple container for documents. Behind her stood 4 others, Draven Melik, Iris Varangian, Kosoko Adeyemi, and Xander Resnick. None displayed any sign of fear in the presence of the galaxy's most powerful species. "Distinguished representatives," Corbin began, her voice carrying through the Grand Chamber without amplification, "we are honored to join this assembly as Earth's delegation." Admiral Guvris of the Tachyon fleet leaned toward Vrelix. "These creatures defeated the Vexillorian armada? With what?" The Admiral's scales rippled with skepticism. The Vexillorian incident had been what prompted this meeting. A simple misunderstanding. The Armada had only intended to harvest Earth's oceans for deuterium, a common practice among spacefaring civilizations. The humans should have been honored their backwater planet held something of value. Instead, they had destroyed 17 warships. "In 3 days," Corbin continued, unfolding a document from her case. "Before we proceed with trade negotiations, we wish to establish diplomatic parameters." Parameters. The Emperor of the Unified Systems huffed through his respiratory tubes. "You are here to accept terms of vassalage, nothing more." The human didn't flinch. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding, Your Eminence. Earth is not joining as a vassal state. We're here to negotiate as equals." Laughter erupted throughout the chamber, a cacophony of clicking mandibles, vibrating membranes, and hissing vents. Even Vrelix couldn't suppress a tremor of amusement. "You wear no armor," observed Queen Zephyria of the Luminous Domain. "You carry no weapons. You control a single planet in an unremarkable system. What gives you the authority to demand equality?" It was the human called Resnick who answered, adjusting what they called a necktie, a purely decorative fabric that would make an excellent strangulation device. "With respect, Your Majesty, humans don't need to display weapons to be dangerous." The room fell silent. "What the Admiral means," Corbin said, "is that Earth believes true power comes from cooperation, not intimidation." That's when the Arcosian delegate, General Brextel, stood up. The Arcosians were renowned for their tactical prowess and physical strength. "This pretense has gone on long enough. The creatures destroyed the Vexillorian ships through luck and primitive nuclear weapons. They are savage, nothing more." Ambassador Varangian smiled thinly. "Actually, General, we didn't use nuclear weapons. Our defense systems are somewhat more refined." "Impossible," Brextel snarled. "No primitive species could—" "Your own intelligence confirms it," Adeyemi interrupted, her voice calm. "The Vexillorian ships were disabled by targeted electromagnetic pulses, precision kinetic strikes, and a form of quantum entanglement disruption your scientists are still trying to understand." That revelation sent ripples of unease through the assembly. Quantum entanglement disruption was theoretical, even among the most advanced civilizations. Vrelix studied the humans more carefully now. Their suits suddenly seemed less like naive fashion choices and more like statements. They didn't need ceremonial armor because they didn't think of this as combat. They had dressed for business because to them this was just another day at the office. "Perhaps," the Emperor said slowly, "we should hear more about these parameters the humans propose." Corbin nodded and opened her case wider. Let's start with mutual respect and territorial sovereignty. After that, we can discuss technological exchange. I believe you'll find Earth has much to offer the galaxy. As the meeting progressed, Vralix couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. These weren't the actions of a species that had gotten lucky. These were the calculated moves of predators disguised as diplomats, and they wore business suits. 3. Standard cycles had passed since the initial summit, and the Galactic Conclave remained divided on the human question. Half the delegations advocated for immediate military intervention, while Earth was still developing its interstellar capabilities. The other half, led by the pragmatic Meridians, argued for cautious engagement. Ambassador Vralix had been assigned to Earth as an observer, a diplomatic term for spy. What he discovered there had kept him awake for days. They're preparing for war, he reported to the emergency council session, his tendrils vibrating with anxiety. But not in ways we understand. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. Explain. They don't build massive fleets or planetary shields like we would. Instead, they have these institutions. They call them think tanks and defense contractors. Buildings filled with humans in business attire who do nothing but imagine new ways to fight, General Brextul snorted. Thoughts cannot destroy. Battle cruisers. Their thoughts become reality with frightening speed, Vralix countered. I witnessed a demonstration where a concept went from drawing to prototype in 7 days. 7 days. The council chamber filled with murmurs. For most species, military innovation took decades of careful deliberation and testing. There's more, Vralix continued. I visited their stock exchanges, centers where they trade ownership in companies. The most valuable entities are those developing technologies with potential military applications. They call it dual-use innovation. Draven Melek, now Earth's appointed ambassador to the Conclave, entered the chamber with that same unnerving calm all humans seem to possess. Rather than the flamboyant ceremonial garb most ambassadors adopted, he still wore the simple dark suit. Distinguished Council, members, Melek began. I understand you have concerns about Earth's intentions. Concerns? Queen Zephyria's luminous skin pulsed with indignation. Your species develops weapons as if preparing for galactic conquest, yet you control only one world. Melek smiled. With respect, Your Majesty, humans have always prepared for threats we cannot yet imagine. It's not paranoia, it's prudence. It is the behavior of a predator species, the Emperor declared, one that sees all others as potential prey. Or potential competitors. Melek countered, which is quite different. We believe in peace through strength, not strength for conquest. Vralix noticed something troubling. Several council members nodding in agreement with the human's logic. Even more concerning was what he had learned about Earth's economic structure. The humans have a system called capitalism, Vralix explained once Melek had departed. Their defense preparations aren't centrally controlled. Thousands of independent entities compete to develop the most effective technologies. The unsuccessful concepts die. The successful ones evolve rapidly. Evolution applied to warfare, mused Science Director Olorian, her compound eyes reflecting the holographic display of Earth. Fascinating and terrifying. Admiral Gouvres slammed, a clawed appendage on the table. We cannot allow them to develop further. The Vexillorian defeat was merely the beginning. If humans advance to true interstellar capability, they could become unstoppable. There's something else, Vralix said, his voice dropping. They've been studying us, our biology, our psychology, our technology. Every diplomatic exchange, every cultural presentation, they record and analyze everything. They call it market. Research. For what market? Asked the Emperor. The market of interspecies relations. They're identifying weaknesses, preferences, needs, everything that would give them leverage. The science director's antennae twitched thoughtfully. Like predators studying prey. No, Vrelix corrected. Like business people identifying opportunities. That distinction, he realized, was what made humans truly dangerous. They didn't see conquest as the path to power. They saw integration, market penetration, and strategic partnerships, and all of it conducted by figures in simple business suits, carrying nothing more threatening than leather cases filled with documents that could reshape the galaxy. The Emperor rose from his throne. Prepare a delegation. We must visit Earth ourselves to understand these business people. The Imperial delegation arrived on Earth with all the ceremony befitting the ruler of 37 star systems. Their massive ship hovered over Manhattan, casting a shadow that stretched from Central Park to Battery Park. It was a deliberate display of technological superiority, one that the humans acknowledged with nothing more than traffic diversions and polite news coverage. "They should be terrified," muttered Admiral Gouvres, watching the humans continue their daily routines below. "Yet they act as if massive warships appear above their cities every day." Ilara Corbin greeted them at the landing platform, still in her trademark charcoal suit. "Welcome to Earth, Your Eminence. We've prepared a tour that should address your concerns." "We are not tourists," the Emperor said coldly. "We are here to determine whether your species represents a threat to galactic stability." Corbin smiled. "Of course. That's why we're starting at the New York Stock Exchange." The delegation exchanged confused glances but followed her into a building that seemed wholly unimpressive compared to the grand architecture of the Imperial Palace. Inside, however, was chaos. Hundreds of humans shouting, staring at screens, making rapid hand gestures. "What barbaric ritual is this?" Queen Zephyria asked, her luminous skin dimming in distaste. "This is where much of Earth's power truly resides," Corbin explained. "More decisive than any battlefield." Science Director Olorian leaned forward, fascinated. "They appear to be in some kind of competitive trance state." "They're trading," Corbin said. "Investing resources in enterprises they believe will succeed, withdrawing from those they expect to fail. This constant reallocation of capital drives our innovation." The Emperor watched the frenzy with growing concern. "Your weapons development follows this same chaotic pattern?" "All development does," Corbin confirmed. "Ideas compete. Only the best survive." Their next stop was a university research laboratory where scientists in casual attire, not even business suits, were manipulating what appeared to be fundamental particles. Professor Layla Voronin, her hair tied back haphazardly, barely looked up from her work when the galactic delegation entered. "Sorry for the mess. We're reconfiguring quantum states to create stable wormholes for communication purposes." The science director's compound eyes widened. "Impossible. Such technology is beyond even our theoretical understanding." "Really?" Voronin seemed genuinely surprised. "Our first prototype worked last month. We're just refining it now for commercial applications." "Commercial?" Admiral Gouvres sputtered. "Such technology has immense military value." The professor shrugged. "Most breakthroughs do. But we're focused on connecting colony worlds. Military applications are someone else's department." As they toured facility after facility, the delegation's unease grew. Unlike the centralized, carefully controlled development programs of most galactic powers, Earth's innovation ecosystem was chaotic, competitive, and remarkably efficient. "This is their true weapon," Vrelix realized aloud as they observed a startup company developing self-replicating nanobots. "Not any specific technology, but the system that produces it." The Emperor nodded slowly. "A weapon we cannot counter with traditional military might." Their final stop was a nondescript government building where they met with Xander Resnick, now Earth's defense secretary. The office was simple, with windows overlooking the city and walls lined with historical maps and books. "I understand you're concerned about our military capabilities," Resnick said, offering them seats. Let me be transparent. Yes, we are developing defensive technologies at a pace you might find alarming. Why? The Emperor demanded. You face no threats within your system. Resnick leaned back in his chair. Humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Our history taught us that preparation deters aggression. Is that a threat? Admiral Guvris bristled. Not at all, Resnick replied calmly. It's an invitation to mutual understanding. We don't want conflict. We want commerce, cultural exchange, and cooperation. But we will always ensure we can protect our interests. The Emperor's respiratory tubes flared. Your species controls one planet, yet you develop capabilities to challenge empires. How should we interpret such actions except as hostile? Perhaps, Resnick suggested, as the prudent measures of a species that has learned from its own bloody history. We don't dress for war, Your Eminence. We dress for business because we prefer solutions where everyone profits. As they left Earth's atmosphere, the delegation remained silent, processing what they had witnessed. It wasn't Earth's technologies that disturbed them. It was the relentless efficiency with which humans developed them. They're not merely dangerous, the Emperor finally said. They're transformative, and I'm not certain the galaxy is prepared for their kind of transformation. The attack came without warning 6 months later, not from humans, but from the reclusive Draconis Collective, a species known for their territorial aggression and technological isolation. Their warships struck 3 Imperial outposts simultaneously, using weapons that somehow bypassed shield frequencies previously thought impenetrable. The Emperor summoned an emergency council as casualties mounted. How did they obtain such technology? The Draconis have been technologically stagnant for centuries. Admiral Guvris's scales had paled to a sickly green. The weapon signatures, they resemble theoretical models we observed in human research facilities. The accusation hung in the air until Ambassador Melek was summoned. He arrived promptly, his business suit impeccable as always, his expression grave. Did your people provide weapons technology to the Draconis Collective? The Emperor demanded. Melek's response was measured. No, Your Eminence. Earth has established no formal relations with the Draconis. However, we did recently publish several theoretical papers on shield harmonics in what we call open-source scientific journals, knowledge freely shared for the advancement of all. You freely shared military technology? Queen Zephyria was aghast. We shared scientific understanding, Melek clarified. How others apply knowledge is beyond our control. The Emperor's throne vibrated with his rage. This free sharing has cost Imperial lives, and we extend our deepest condolences, Melek said. Earth is prepared to offer immediate humanitarian assistance to affected outposts. We also have defensive countermeasures we can deploy against these weapons. The council chamber grew silent. You have countermeasures? Admiral Guvris said slowly. Against technology you just released? Melek nodded. Earth's defense policy includes developing countermeasures for all technologies we research, even theoretical ones. Standard business practice. Anticipate market developments. The implications were staggering. The humans had not only revolutionized shield-penetrating technology, but had already developed defenses against it. They had transformed the galactic balance of power with scientific papers. What do you want in exchange for these countermeasures? The Emperor asked, his voice resigned. Nothing, Melek replied. We offer them freely as a gesture of goodwill and in the interest of galactic stability. No one believed him. Nothing was free. That was a universal constant. Yet 3 days later, Earth vessels arrived at the besieged outposts with exactly what they had promised. Defensive systems that neutralized the Draconis weapons. Human technicians, all in business attire, installed the equipment efficiently, trained local operators, and departed without demanding political concessions or resource rights. Vralix observed the operation from his diplomatic vessel, more confused than ever. I don't understand their strategy, he confessed to Science Director Olorian. Perhaps that's the point, she replied, her compound eyes tracking the departing Earth ships. If we cannot understand their motives, we cannot predict their actions. The Galactic Conclave reconvened once the immediate crisis had passed. Opinions about the humans had shifted yet again. Some delegates now viewed them as valuable allies against the Draconis threat. Others saw the entire scenario as an elaborate human manipulation, creating a problem only they could solve. When Kosoko Adeyemi addressed the Council, now serving as Earth's Secretary of Interstellar Commerce, she brought an unexpected proposal. Earth wishes to establish a galactic regulatory framework for emerging technologies, she announced. A cooperative body where all species can review and establish ethical guidelines for potentially destabilizing innovations. Guidelines your people would ignore when convenient, General Brextul scoffed. Adeyemi smiled. The framework would include inspection protocols, verification mechanisms, and graduated sanctions for violations. Earth would be the first to submit to these oversight measures. The Emperor leaned forward. Why would you surrender your technological advantage? Because unregulated technological proliferation threatens everyone, she replied. In business terms, we're protecting our shared marketplace. Stability benefits commerce. It was the most dangerous proposal yet, not because it threatened galactic peace, but because it threatened to place humans at the center of galactic governance. A species that dressed in simple business suits would now shape the rules that govern technologies even the oldest civilizations barely understood. If we reject this framework, Vrelix asked later in a private meeting with Adeyemi, what then? Her expression remained pleasant, but her eyes hardened. Then each species will develop technologies according to their own ethical standards. Some will be responsible, others won't. The galaxy will become increasingly unpredictable. That sounds like a threat. It's a forecast, she corrected. Earth prefers stable, regulated environments for growth, but will adapt to whatever environment exists. That, Vrelix realized, was what made humans truly terrifying. Their adaptability, their willingness to reshape themselves, and by extension the galaxy, to thrive under any conditions. They didn't conquer, they integrated. They didn't destroy competitors, they transformed them into markets, and they did it all while dressed for business. 5 years after Earth's first contact with the Galactic Conclave, the Terran Commercial District on Proxima Centauri's second planet had become the fastest-growing economic zone in the quadrant. Species that had once viewed humans with suspicion now competed for business partnerships, technological licenses, and cultural exchange programs. Vrelix, now serving as the Emperor's special envoy for Terran affairs, walked through the district with growing disbelief. Shops displayed products combining technologies from a dozen worlds. Restaurants served fusion cuisine that somehow made incompatible biochemistries delicious to multiple species. Entertainment venues featured holographic performances that resonated across cultural barriers. Impressive, isn't it? Iris Varangian appeared beside him, still wearing her characteristic dark blue suit despite the tropical climate. She had become Earth's chief diplomatic strategist, a position that hadn't existed before humans joined the galactic community. It's unsettling, Vrelix admitted. 5 years ago, your species controlled one planet. Now your influence extends across 17 systems. Through partnerships, Varangian emphasized, not conquest. They entered the gleaming headquarters of the Interspecies Innovation Exchange, the institution that had grown from Adeyemi's original regulatory framework proposal. Inside, scientists from 32 species collaborated on projects ranging from dimensional physics to xenobiology. This is the true revelation, Varangian said, gesturing to a Meridian physicist working alongside a human quantum theorist. We're stronger together than apart. Yet Earth benefits disproportionately. Fralix observed. Your companies hold patents on 60% of technologies developed here. We contribute 65% of the research funding, she countered. That's how business works. Investment and return. Before Fralix could respond, his communication device vibrated. The Emperor was requesting his immediate return for an emergency session. The Draconis Collective had attacked again, this time targeting the Luminous Domain. Queen Zephyria's homeworld was under siege. What followed was chaos. The Galactic Conclave, fractured along ancient alliance lines. Some demanded immediate military intervention against the Draconas, others called for diplomatic solutions. Earth's representatives watched the proceedings with that same unnerving calm they always displayed. When the arguments reached their peak, Ilara Corbin, now Earth's High Commissioner, requested the floor. Distinguished delegates, she began, Earth has already dispatched a humanitarian fleet to the Luminous Domain with medical supplies and defensive systems. But this crisis requires more than reactive measures. The Emperor's respiratory tubes flared. If you suggest another regulatory framework while worlds burn, I suggest we address the underlying cause, Corbin interrupted. The Draconis aren't inherently aggressive. They're responding to resource scarcity in their region, specifically the collapse of their artificial photosynthesis systems that provided food for their population. The revelation silenced the chamber. This intelligence was unknown, even to the Imperial spy networks. How do you know this? Demanded General Brextool. We sent business delegations to their trading outposts, Corbin explained. Not diplomats, market researchers. They observed food shortages, heard complaints from traders, and analyzed public data. Basic due diligence. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. And you withheld this information? We only confirmed it yesterday, Corbin said. And we've already developed a solution. With a gesture, she activated a holographic display showing modified photosynthesis systems. These units can be manufactured quickly and deployed to Draconis worlds within 20 days. They'll restore food production capacity within a month. At what cost? Queen Zephyria asked, her luminous skin pulsing weakly. Her species was particularly vulnerable to the Draconis. Attacks. The technology will be provided at production cost, Corbin said. No profit margin. In exchange, we propose the Draconis join the Interspecies Innovation Exchange and contribute their considerable expertise in biomechanical engineering. Science Director Olorian's antennae twitched in surprise. You would bring your attackers into your research institution? The best way to prevent future conflicts is to create mutual dependency, Corbin explained. When prosperity is shared, aggression becomes irrational. It was a business solution to a military problem, turning enemies into stakeholders, conflicts into opportunities. And it was working. Within months, Draconis representatives were cautiously engaging with the wider galactic community, their expertise in biomechanical systems already yielding breakthroughs in medical technology. Fralix watched it all with growing clarity. Humans weren't conquering the galaxy with weapons. They were reshaping it with business models. Their true power wasn't technological superiority, but conceptual flexibility. The ability to see opportunities where others saw only threats. I finally understand, he told Varangian during a private meeting. Your business attire isn't about formality or tradition. It's a statement. She smiled. What statement would that be? That humans see galactic politics as a form of commerce, negotiations where all parties can benefit. You dress for business because you're always conducting it, Varangian nodded. There's an old Earth saying, war is bad for business. We prefer sustainable relationships. And if those relationships don't serve your interests? Fralix pressed. Her smile didn't falter. Then we find new ways to align interests. That's what makes good business. As Fralix departed for his homeworld, he composed his report to the Emperor with grave concern. The humans weren't merely participating in galactic affairs. They were transforming the fundamental nature of interspecies relations, and they were doing it without firing a single shot. Their weapons were ideas, their conquests were markets, and their uniforms were business suits. The galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Conclave's centennial gathering was traditionally a time for reflecting on the past and planning for the future. For thousands of years, it had been a ceremonial event with little substantive change. The powerful empires maintained their dominance while lesser species accepted their subordinate roles. This centennial was different. Representatives from 117 species filled the Great Chamber, many wearing variations of what had become known as Terran formal attire, business suits adapted to various physiologies. Even the Emperor had incorporated elements of the style into his ceremonial robes. Vrelix, now aged and serving as chief counselor to the imperial throne, watched as Ilara Corbin approached the central platform. After 20 years of human integration into galactic society, she had risen to become the first non-founder species to hold the position of High Chancellor of the Conclave. Her suit was the same style she had worn to that first meeting: simple, elegant, practical. The only concession to her elevated status was a small pin representing Earth's position in the galactic community. "Distinguished representatives," she began, "we gather at a pivotal moment in our shared history. The cooperative accords have now been ratified by 93% of spacefaring civilizations. Trade flows freely across former borders. Technological advancement benefits species who once knew only scarcity." The statistics displayed behind her told an undeniable story. Interspecies conflicts had decreased by 78%. Economic growth had increased across all sectors. Life expectancy had improved for every participating species. "This is the revelation Earth promised," she continued. "Not dominance, but partnership. Not conquest, but conversation. Not subjugation, but business." The applause that followed came from delegations that had once viewed humans with terror. Even the Draconis representatives joined in, their once feared warriors now respected entrepreneurs. As the session concluded, the Emperor requested a private meeting with Corbin and the original Earth delegation. Vrelix attended as counsel, his tendrils now gray with age. 20 years ago," the Emperor began, "I believed your species represented the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. Now, I find myself wondering if we could have survived without you." Draven Melek, his hair now white, nodded respectfully. "The transition hasn't been without challenges, Your Eminence." "Indeed," the Emperor agreed. "Many traditional powers have seen their influence recalibrated, including the imperial throne itself, though this remained tactfully unspoken. The Emperor now ruled as part of a constitutional system, his absolute authority gradually replaced by cooperative governance. "We have a confession to make," Corbin said, her expression serious. "One we feel you deserve to hear directly, given your pivotal role in accepting Earth into the galactic community." The Emperor's respiratory tubes flared with apprehension. "Proceed." "Our first contact with alien life wasn't the Vexillorian Armada," she revealed. "We detected your observation posts in our system decades earlier. We monitored your communications, studied your languages, analyzed your technologies, all before you realized we were capable of interstellar awareness." Vrelix's tendrils froze in shock. The secret Imperial observation posts had been considered undetectable. "When the Vexillorians arrived," Xander Resnick continued, "we were prepared, not just with defensive capabilities, but with a comprehensive strategy for galactic integration." "The business suits?" Vrelix asked, finally understanding. Kosoko Adeyemi nodded. "Psychological warfare of a sort. We studied how ceremonial combat gear influenced diplomatic perceptions. We chose business attire deliberately to signal our approach, that we viewed galactic politics as negotiations, not confrontations." You manipulated us, the Emperor said, his voice strangely calm. From the beginning. We understood you, Iris, Varangian corrected gently. And we offered alternatives to conflict. The results speak for themselves. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Why tell us this now? Because the next phase requires complete transparency, Corbin explained. Earth has discovered something in the void between galaxies, something that represents an existential threat to all life forms, something no single species can confront alone. Holographic images appeared showing massive structures moving between the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies, structures that defied conventional physics and dwarfed even the largest stellar phenomena. We call them void architects, Resnick said. They appear to be re-engineering the fundamental structure of space-time. Their work will reach our galaxy within 50 years. The Emperor's throne hummed as he processed this information. You've known about this threat from the beginning. Your entire integration strategy was partly designed to prepare the galactic community for this moment, Corbin acknowledged. Divided, we would perish. United, we have a chance. Vralik suddenly saw the humans with new clarity. They hadn't dressed for business because they were peaceful. They had dressed for business because they were pragmatic. They hadn't shared technology out of altruism. They had been building an alliance capable of facing an unimaginable threat. Earth's most dangerous beings don't wear armor, he murmured, because they're fighting a war so vast that conventional weapons are meaningless. Not a war, Corbin corrected. A negotiation, potentially the most important one in the history of life itself. As the meeting concluded, the Emperor made an unprecedented gesture. He removed his ceremonial combat gear and requested a human business suit tailored to his physiology. If we are to face these void architects, he declared, I wish to be dressed appropriately for the encounter. Alara Corbin smiled as she helped him with the unfamiliar garment. That, Your Eminence, is the most important revelation of all. Understanding. That sometimes the most dangerous beings in the universe aren't those who prepare for war, but those who prepare for something far more complex. Business, the Emperor said, adjusting his new attire. Partnership, Corbin corrected. Across species, across ideologies, and now perhaps across cosmological divides. As they rejoined the conclave chamber, the sight of the Emperor in a business suit caused a sensation. But the symbolism was clear to all present. In the face of the greatest challenge any of them had ever encountered, they would meet it not as warriors, but as partners. For the revelation that Earth had brought to the galaxy wasn't about power or technology or even strategy. It was the simple truth that survival itself was the ultimate business. And business was always better when everyone prospered. Earth's most dangerous beings had indeed dressed for business. And in doing so, they had transformed a galaxy of warriors into a consortium of allies just in time to face the greatest negotiation of all.